Hey everyone, I really could use your help before I start this tale. Lately, my channel has been having trouble. Subscriptions will be rather helpful. It's free, quick, and motivates me. In advance, thanks. Alright, now Alex is my name. I am 30 years old, and 6 months ago I was engaged to Jenna, the lady I intended to spend my life with, 5 years apart, organizing our wedding across 9 yards. But right now, it's all over. My sister Olivia is responsible. You must understand the backstory if you are to grasp why this is such a major event. I used to get along with Olivia never, always vying with one another, always striving to one-up one another. I won a spelling bee when I was 10, and instead of celebrating with me, she had a fit in the ice cream shop yelling she was a better speller. It demoralized me. That helped to define our whole childhood. She would become fixated until she obtained a better mark if I passed an exam with an A. She had a breakdown in the restaurant, screaming that she was the superior artist when I won an art contest at 12. It was unrelenting. She suddenly adored basketball if I signed on the squad. If I liked a female, she would try to grab her away. Like a war zone, my own house felt. Nothing worked. Our parents tried everything. Therapy, family talks. Olivia simply sat there, not interacting, crossing her arms. We were stuck, the therapist stated, without her cooperation. When I turned 22, everything started to spiral. I received a top marketing business dream job, fantastic compensation, amazing perks, and the possibility to work on major projects. Years of effort at last paying off. Olivia was floundering in college, switching majors all the time. I expected congrats when I notified my family about the job. Olivia burst instead. She shouted at me, called me a show-off, and said I constantly took front stage. She spouted, "Why do you always have to be the golden child? Why could you never ever simply fail?" Her words hurt, but the sight in her eyes truly spoke to me. Pure, vicious jealousy. Her parents tried to cool her down, but she bolted and slammed the door so forcefully, a picture dropped from the wall. Later, I heard her on the phone with a buddy. "He's not going to keep rubbing this in my face," she declared. "I'll make sure he's knocked down a peg or two." I thought it was just her regular drama, but I was dead wrong. HR sent me an email a few days before I was scheduled to begin my new employment. Given some disturbing materials, they had done a background check. Under my name, someone had sent them phony emails and social media posts loaded with hostile, discriminating material. I was judged right away as unsuited for the post. Gone just like that. My ideal job. I knew Olivia would be it. She was the only one able to create such devastating personal material. She first played innocent when I challenged her. She cracked, though, when I pressed. "Maybe you deserve to know what it feels like for once," she said sarcastically. "You have always been the favorite. It's about time you tasted failure." From pure hatred, my own sister had undermined my future. It was an announcement of war, not only betrayal. She acknowledged everything, including the false accounts and communications meant to cause me failure. Her voice exuded a perverted pride, akin to that of someone having won some nasty games. I was devastated. This was a deliberate attack, not sibling conflict. I left telling her I never wanted to see her again. Trying to get my life together, I crashed on a friend's couch. In the aftermath, I severed all contact with Olivia. Though they knew better than to bring her up around me, my parents still saw her on occasion. Restoring my career proved challenging. Having to start from nothing, I worked my way back up from a lower-paying position. Still, I did it. After landing a decent job and gathering a strong circle of acquaintances, I eventually ran across Jenna. 5 years ago, when we first started dating, it seemed like things were at last in order. She was witty, gentle, and quite sympathetic. On our 4th date, I told her all Olivia had to offer. She listened gently and said she appreciated my choice to cut ties. Olivia was not to be a part of my life, particularly not at our wedding. I made very plain. At first, Jenna seemed to grasp it. She began to push back, though, as we descended into wedding preparation. She would bring up Olivia, implying it was time for forgiveness and forgetfulness. Every time I would shut it down. Seeing Olivia again made my tummy turn over. Having her here would make the day meant to be the happiest in my life a misery. Jenna would drop it for some time, but I could sense her unhappiness. It all boiled to a head a few weeks ago when we were finishing the guest list. Jenna brought up Olivia once more, and this time she was unflinching. She continued gently, "Alex, I really think you should rethink inviting Olivia. She's your sister. Do you not think it's time to move on and forgive?" I closed my mouth. "Jenna, We discussed this. Having her there will destroy everything. You know what she did to me. She let out an evident frustrated groan. But it was years ago. People change. Maybe she regrets it now. Maybe she is different. The fury started to bubble up. Regrets it. She destroyed my childhood, my career, my reputation. She knew exactly what she was doing. How do you just regret something like that? Her gaze turned to mine. I just think maybe she deserves a chance to make it right. She is not saying what she did was okay. Rising in voice. Why are you pushing this? I asked. Why is she deserving of a chance to attend our wedding? Jenna's face became rigid. Because family is important, Alex. I cannot see cutting someone off permanently. Her sentences cut like a razor. Family. You think this is about some minor grudge? She didn't steal my toys or read my diary. She sabotaged my entire life. I had to rebuild everything from scratch because of her. You're being stubborn, she responded. You're penalizing her for a youthful error she made, I snapped. A mistake? Do you know how humiliating it was to lose that job? To have my name pulled through the mud because my sister couldn't stand that I was doing well? That's not a mistake, Jenna. That's cruelty. Maybe she's grown, she said insistently. Maybe she wants to apologize. And possibly I don't care, I answered. She made her decisions. I made mine. I told you this was a limit for me. Maybe we shouldn't be getting married if you cannot respect that. Jenna's eyes became wide with surprise. You're seriously suggesting that over this? Yes, I responded, my voice quivering. Because it's not just this. You're supposed to be on my side, Jenna. You knew how much this meant to me, and you're still trying to push me. You knew. We sat quietly, the weight of my remarks hanging about. Jenna got up and left the room what felt like an eternity. Alone, I sat there glancing at the guest list, tears blurring my view. The following day was underlined by tension. Jenna hardly spoke to me, and when she did, it was in brief, staccato phrases. It is intolerable to me. This frigid, far-off version of her was worse than any struggle. We felt as though a wall had grown between us, and neither of us knew how to knock it down. I told myself it would blow over often. We had loved each other and gone through so much together. Right, this was merely a temporary dip. Deeply, though, I sensed something had changed. Trust had been damaged. Once that occurs, it is difficult to mend the fragments. 1 week later, everything blew out. Late from work, I arrived home worn out and depleted. Jenna had pale hands shaking as she sat at the dining table. There was enough tension in the air to choke on. What's going on? I said warily. She inhaled shakily. Alex, I have to tell you something. My stomach grew tighter. What is it? She murmured. I contacted Olivia. I felt momentarily as though I hadn't heard right. You're whatever? Tears welling in her eyes, she said. I found her on social media a few months ago. I invited her to the wedding. I have been chatting with her and just wanted to find out what happened between you two. And you invited her. My voice was barely a whisper, shaking with incredulity, as the floor felt as though it slid out from under me. She said, I'm sorry, and wept. I thought it was the right thing to do. Maybe you two could finally, if she came. No, I cut her off, my voice staccato and angry. You betrayed me. You went behind my back, exactly what I advised not to do. Tears washing down her face, she begged. Alex, please. I was just trying to help. I love you. Help? I said, a sour laugh. You know how I felt, and you did it anyway. This isn't love, Jenna. This is manipulation. She grabbed for me, but I moved back, and my heart broke. She wept. Alex, wait. There's more. I thought she changed. I really did. But when I spoke to her, I realized I was wrong. Jenna hesitated, like the words themselves hurt her. Oh, you're his new girl. How can you even be with such a loser? She asked. My chest constricted, and I clasped my hands. Of course Olivia had not changed. She would naturally scream, even to someone extending a loving gesture. Tears running freely, Jenna went on. That's when I realized you were right all along. I thought I was helping, Alex. I thought I was only making things worse. I see now how much she hurt you. I'm so sorry. Though they hung weight in the air, her words had no effect to lessen the blow. You should have trusted me, I continued, voice subdued, but forceful. You should have paid attention when I indicated what I needed. Jenna dropped her face in her hands and started to cry. I found myself unable to console her. All I could consider was how the one person I relied on above all else had gone behind my back, believing she understood more than I did. If you cannot respect me enough to trust my judgment, I responded, then we have nothing left. She sobbed, saying, "Don't say that. We can solve this." I shook my head. The suffering was too great to control. "No, Jenna, you broke my trust, and without trust, there's nothing left to fix." Turning, I headed away, each step weighing more than the next. Like a door closing on the life we had created together, the air between us felt weighty and final. Knowing it was over hurt more than I could have ever put in words. The quiet in our flat felt stifling. Spending the evening in the guest room, I stared at the ceiling and kept going back over every word of our dispute. My head was a tempest of anguish, mistrust, and resentment. Sleep would not arrive, only a never-ending round of what-ifs and if-onlys. Breakfast brought the frigid truth of the circumstances. Jenna was moving about, her packing muffled sounds audible. I was not obliged to find out what she was working on. Neither of us could stop the breakdown in the life we had created over 5 years. Her face was streaked with tears as she at last emerged, bag in hand, but her face also showed a quiet resolve. Her voice almost above a whisper. She whispered, "Are you sure this is what you want, Alex?" My throat tight. I swallowed hard. "No, Jenna. Though it's what you have left me with, this isn't what I want." She nodded and wiped her eyes. "I never meant to ruin you." My voice broke as I said, "I know, but that has no bearing on what you did." We stood there for a time, regret and unsaid words weighing down the air. She turned then and went out the door. I wasn't ready for the finality that closing behind her sounded like. The next several days blurred together. Every call felt like another stab to the heart, like I was tearing apart a dream piece by piece as I called off the wedding, changed the location, and canceled the caterers and the florist. The responses blended together. Though some of my buddies didn't get it, others attempted to be encouraging. Conversely, Jenna's family tried no effort to suppress their wrath. Her brother, who I used to be close with, sent me a long, nasty text, warning me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Her mother called me a cruel monster and accused me of throwing away a beautiful relationship for petty sibling drama. Numb, I fixated on the television. They knew not the whole truth. They couldn't fathom the depth of the suffering. Then my own family chose to participate. My folks phoned nonstop, leaving voicemails ranging from guilt-tripping to imploring. "Alex, please," the voice of my mother would tremble. "This could be a chance to heal the family. Don't let this tear everything apart." But I was not the one who had split everything. Olivia was it. Today, Jenna is it. The people meant to be by my side, to defend me, had crossed boundaries I would not pardon. After a really demanding day, one evening I arrived home to find Olivia emailing me. Curiosity won me over, even though I nearly erased it without reading. The topic line said just, "I'm sorry." The communication was drawn out in apologies and explanations. She wrote about how she had spent years in treatment, seeking to sort her hatred and jealousy. She said she was a different person today, even though what she had done was unforgivable. She wanted to be back a sister to me, to atone, to heal. Feeling just tired, I fixed my gaze on the words. Was I meant to believe the suffering she had inflicted could be gone with a few years of therapy? Could I reverse the humiliation, the loss of my dream job, the years of effort to reconstruct my career? The wounds extended too far back. I closed the email without answering. Alone for the following weekend, I tried to sort through everything. My head returned often to Jenna. I missed her giggle, the way her eyes glistened as she discussed her passions. Still, I couldn't get rid of the sense that the trust was gone. It was about Jenna choosing to ignore my boundaries, to do the opposite of what I advised, to prove a point, not only about Olivia. Was I acting overly obstinately? Was it worth missing Jenna over this? Every time I thought about getting in touch, though, I recalled the sorrow, the betrayal, the icy awareness that the person I loved had not valued my needs. That knot was too deep and too fresh. I felt like a ghost when I arrived at work early on Tuesday. Ashley, my supervisor, a straightforward woman who had always been encouraging, drew me aside. Her voice quieter than normal, she asked, "You doing okay?" I started to smile under duress. "I'm getting there." She nodded, staring at me momentarily. "Sometimes standing your ground is the hardest thing you can do, but it's worth it." Her comment stayed with me. Spending the rest of the day lost in my work, I let the rhythm of coding help me to escape the turbulence in my head. The apartment seemed emptier than it had ever been by the time I arrived home, yet for the first time in days, I felt some calm. I had gone with the correct decision, though at least I hadn't compromised myself. It didn't make the suffering any less genuine. I destroyed Olivia's email that evening, I had no need to go over it once more. I knew just what to say. Though life carried on in the next days, it seemed as though I was standing still. Once humming with laughter and warmth, the apartment felt empty and frigid. The absence of Jenna caused ongoing pain. Her side of the closet was vacant, the bathroom shelves half empty. I kept finding myself expecting to see her, hearing her voice in the quiet times, then reminded she was gone. Using the long hours and demanding assignments as a diversion, I poured myself into work. But the weight of everything persisted. The treachery, the broken trust, the future that had slid through my fingers. No matter how busy I kept myself, every bit followed me like a shadow. My parents then made their call. Late one evening, my phone buzzed. For a second, I pondered turning away from it. But there was something that caught my attention. With a bland voice, "Hi, Mom," I said. She said, "Alex," her voice wary, "please come to dinner this weekend. We have to talk." "I don't think that's a good idea," I said, weariness creeping into my words. She said, "Please. It's key." Against my better sense, I agreed. Perhaps some of me still yearned they would grasp, that they would at last see my side of events. Deep down, though, I knew I was laying myself out for failure. When Saturday night dawned, I drove to my folks' house feeling queasy. The familiar images of my boyhood house looked different now, flavored with a melancholy I couldn't get rid of. I braced myself by inhaling as I ascended the steps. The door opened, and my mother forced a smile at me. She replied gently, "I'm so glad you came," dragging me into a hug more akin to a plea than consolation. I entered, and noticed right away something was strange. Like a hurricane about to strike, the air felt weighty. I next saw her, Olivia. She was seated at the dining table, staring at me with something nearly like sorrow. My voice quivering, I asked, "What is she doing here?" A cold sense of rage surged through me. "Alex, please," my dad replied, his tone hurtful. "We just want to enable you to find peace." The betrayal striking me like a blow to the gut. "What is wrong with everyone? You did this behind my back," I asked. "You ambushed me." Tears sprang to my mother's eyes. "We felt if you two just spoke, you could finally heal." I shook my head while clenching my hands into fists. "You never get it. You never have." "Alex, wait," Olivia said with a shaking voice. "I just want to say sorry." Her comments landed on me like empty noise. I turned to my parents, bitterness building in my throat. "You cannot push something that is broken beyond repair to be fixed." My dad's voice broke. "We just want our family back." "This is your family now," I remarked, my voice hard, "where trust doesn't matter, where treachery is brushed beneath the carpet." The weight of finality pressing on my shoulders, I turned toward the door. "I told you where I stood. If you can't respect that, then I don't know what else to say." My heart thumping in my ears, I headed outdoors. I didn't turn around, but my mother's cries trailed me down the steps. My face was hit by the chilly night air, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt clear. The lines had been laid out. I wouldn't let them cross mine, and I didn't cross theirs either. I sat in my car for a long time that evening before heading home. Texts from my parents, Olivia, even Jenna buzzed on my phone. I paid them all little attention. I was not ready to reply, to defend myself once more, to rationalize my suffering. That would have been sufficient. The emptiness of the flat no longer felt oppressive when I at last arrived home. Rather, it seemed to be space to exhale. I was sick of trying to fit bits together that no longer fit, and clinging to relationships that wounded me. Over the next few days, I quietly considered things. Though I knew I had destroyed irreparable bridges, there was also a weird sense of freedom in it. I was not bearing the weight of others' expectations anymore. I wasn't compelled to pardon someone who hadn't earned it. One evening I made plans to get together with several pals. They had been anxious about me, and I decided it was time to come out from undercover. We visited a little bar in downtown, where the music was low and the talk could flow. I became aware of how much I had alienated myself while I drank and listened to their laughing. The world had not ended as my involvement did. Life continued on. So could I. My friend Sam patted me on the shoulder later that evening as we were heading out. "You did the right thing, man," he remarked. "Staying up for yourself calls for guts." I nodded, a little smile developing. I thought at first, of course. Having stood my ground had cost me. Losing myself would have cost more. I strolled down the beach early the following morning. The early sun reflected off the softly lapping waves along the coast in dazzling golden tones. I inhaled deeply, allowing the sea air, which is salted, to to flood my lungs. Though loss and damage persisted, there was optimism as well. At last, I could create a life in which my boundaries were respected, and in which I could not compromise my tranquility in order to suit someone else's conception of family. Though for the first time in a long time, I was fine with not knowing what the future contained. I would work on it one step at a time. The days stretched into weeks, and life found a new cadence. Though I changed from before the split, I was beginning to feel more grounded. The silence held an unusual calm in the simplicity of concentrating on myself, not for anyone else, but only for me. It felt like I was gradually reconstructing the basis of my life. I stayed more with friends, folks who embraced me for exactly who I was. We gathered around bonfires on chilly evenings, investigated secret paths across the coastal cliffs, and told stories that brought back memories of what actual connection felt like. These friendships were pure, free of expectations or treachery. They gave me the will to keep on. Things at work were consistent. I poured myself into undertakings and embraced obstacles meant to spur on personal development. Denise, my supervisor, observed my change. She drew me aside one day following a conference. "You've been doing fantastic, Alex," she remarked, flashing a smile. "I see your focus. Keep it up." I nodded, inspired by pride. Her comments helped me to realize that I was still capable and motivated, even with all. My history had created something stronger, rather than broken me. One Saturday, I made the decision to clean the apartment. It was time to release the attachments to what used to be. I discovered traces of my relationship with Jenna as I rummaged through the drawers and closets. A half-written grocery list in her handwriting, an old movie ticket stub, a misplaced earring. Every object had a memory, a flutter of what we had. Rather than drowning in memories, though, I let each one go. I set aside a box, sealed it, and put them inside. Letting go meant deciding to walk ahead free from the weight of what may have been, not forgetting. Afterwards, the space felt different, lighter, cleaner. It was at last my space. I hung fresh artwork, adjusted the furniture, and included some plants. These little adjustments made a significant difference. The area seemed to mirror not who I used to be, but rather who I was right now. My phone buzzed one evening as I was cooking dinner. This was a new pastime I was becoming better at. "We miss you. Please talk to us when you're ready," my mom's text said. I looked at the message for some time. Although the dinner ambush still caused pain, I also knew my parents were decent people. They simply lacked the depth of my suffering and the boundaries I needed to guard myself. I did not respond straight away. I needed more time. That was all right. Healing was not something to hurry about. A few weeks later, I met someone new at a rooftop party in downtown Austin. Emily was her name. She seemed to have an easy smile and a natural conversational style. We covered everything from road vacations to the top barbecue restaurants in Texas to preferred literature. She asked questions I wasn't ready to answer and pounced on my history. She simply loved the time she spent with me. That was rejuvenating. I had no need for justification or boundary defense. I may quite simply be. Emily looked to me and grinned as the sunset painted the sky purple and orange. "Feel like grabbing a milkshake?" she said. Laughing, Sure, as long as I'm not having to sing karaoke." She laughed, and in that instant, I felt a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. It was the quiet satisfaction of knowing that perhaps fresh starts were feasible, not the excitement of falling in love. I realized something that evening as I made my way back inside my flat. I wasn't over all that had transpired. Still, there remained the marks of Olivia's betrayal and Jenna's broken confidence. But those scars didn't define me. They merely fit my narrative. Now I was stronger, more conscious of what I needed and deserved. Though I realized I had no influence over the behavior of others, I could govern my own, and for the first time in a very long time, I was at peace with my decisions. Perched near the window, I peered at the Austin skyline. The globe was still in motion, and so was I. Though I had no idea what was ahead, I was not terrified. I had a clearer sense of who I was, self-respect, and limits. Though occasionally standing your ground means losing those you love, ultimately, it also means discovering yourself. And that is the exchange I was at last ready to engage in.